To the residents of the City of Middletown and the Middletown School District, the Honorable Richard P. Wolslayer, Coach. As we try to begin all our programs, if you could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
With the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Joseph Stefano. I'm Mayor of the City of Middletown, and it gives me immense pleasure to host this ceremony on behalf of our City of Middletown residents. Please allow me to introduce some of our elected officials that are here today, joining us in this ceremony. We have, from the City of Middletown, Miguel Rodriguez, our Council President. Our Assemblywoman, Aileen Gunther. And our Senator Jen Metzger. Part of this is twofold. One, of course, is to honor Dick Wolslayer, and the other is to just give a brief explanation of the project that we put forward. And if you could put the PowerPoint up. The city began the expansion of the 112-acre Davidge Park several years ago with the purchase of 25 acres that bordered Monhagan Avenue and Route 211 West and the current park. In 2017, we purchased an additional 55 acres that were contiguous to the park, crossing over in Gracia Road as part of our eventual tie-in with our reservoir system lands. This 25-acre section became the project of Council President Miguel Rodriguez when we came into office together in 2010. He was focused on making this athletic field for use by youth football, walking track, and other activities, primarily because of his involvement in the Middletown Youth Program. In fact, for the past 10 years, we have called it the Rodriguez Field of Dreams because we really didn't think it was ever going to happen. The project began a few years ago, but the site required a lot of work and a lot of clean fill. It was about 8 to 10 feet, 8 to 11 feet of clean fill that we put in. We worked out a deal with a large construction project contractor to lease the property to them for approximately a year in exchange for them doing the clean fill, topsoil, and also fencing the property. The value of this barter was in excess of $300,000. The total project cost, as you see, if you haven't seen the rendering to my right, is approximately $1.2 million. The next step was to secure additional funding. Assemblywoman Gunther secured $250,000. Senator Bonisic and now Senator Metzger carried on this with an additional $100,000 in funding. The city matched these grants with $350,000 of city taxpayer monies. We've applied for an additional $250,000 for the concession and bathroom facilities, and we should hear this month. I can assure you if the grant is not secured, we have other options, including additional local funding. So the project will be completed in 2020. We are ready to begin phase 1 now, and the project is ready to go out to bid. A few weeks ago, before this endeavor got started, I had a call from Tim Martin from down in Florida. Obviously, Coach Wolslayer had impacted Tim's life in a very positive way, as he did many others. He suggested that the city consider naming a street after him. I shared this with Council President Rodriguez and the members of the Common Council. We talked, and then the perfect storm came, the suggestion was made, is why a street? We have this new athletic field that we're constructing. 57 years of Dick Wolslayer in Middletown youth seemed to be a proper way to acknowledge the service of Dick to our community. Once it was mentioned to the Common Council, it was all agreed upon that what better way to honor a man who has dedicated his entire adult life to athletics, community, and kids in our city than naming the field after him. It was very quick and very unanimous, and that's when planning began. So to begin the program, and I wasn't expecting Tim to be here, because he lives down in Florida. So he did tell me he was here in the last couple of days. So I'd like to bring Tim up, maybe just to share your thoughts on why you approached the city. Tim Martin.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming today. Yesterday, I didn't know if I was going to get to speak or not. I guess Kelly made it happen. I'm not a speechwriter, and the older I get, the more winded I get with my words. Kelly corrected that for me. And thanks to the mayor and the city, this is actually becoming a reality. I don't know how to act without being grateful and thankful for good friends. I know that everyone here who was taught or coached by Coach Wolslayer would love to speak and tell their story, because there are many stories. But I am the lucky one. I get to represent and tell mine. Our great coach would let you feel defeat, yet he always brought you to the end zone. He made you strive for victory, and if you settled for defeat, you were all alone. I had some tough years in high school. For a while, I thought I was going to have to walk away from it all. But your friend and my coach said that's not going to happen. I'm going to your graduation party. So you better excel at your studies, and you better start yesterday. Not to just attend a graduation party, but seeing his smile was awesome every time one of his students succeeded. Well, here we are honoring a man of great character and also a man who truly cared about his players and students. High school was so much fun until I got caught smoking by Coach Wolslayer. Coach Wolslayer had a dislike for smoking. I come to know this from the comfort and pleasure he seemed to get while he made you run the hills behind the high school. Coach Wolslayer showed us how good it felt to win, and the feeling was great, whether you were a player or a student. If you asked Coach Wolslayer, he would say that students gave him more than he gave them. That's how modest and giving of a man he is. Coach Wolslayer made us work hard, and he only showed us how to win. Anyone coached or taught by Coach Wolslayer is a winner. May many, many kids get to excel here at these new sporting fields. We love you, Coach.
I think you just whispered that he did stop smoking, too. Yeah. Back up on the screen, it'll give you an idea of what the field looked like. This once barren, sunken mud field will be a beautiful addition to our growing city parks and recreation programs. Chris Brinkerhoff, our Parks and Recreation Superintendent, is in the back, and she's also been a key player in the development of this properties along with Davies Park. And it's Miguel's dream becoming Richard P. Wolslayer Fields. So here are some pictures of the project. The architect of the project was Aegis Designs, Joe Fucci, who is here today. And Joe did a tremendous job. Thank you, Joe. So that's the whole complex when complete. Actually, it looks like it's built already, but it's not. Has a little bit of Wilson Field feel to it with the stands on each side. So it's very nice. So on behalf of the city, Council President Rodriguez and I would like to also take this opportunity to acknowledge the efforts of our Common Council on this project, also the Middletown School District, in cooperation with Superintendent Del Moro and Del Moro's office. Dave Coates, Kevin Witt was very helpful on putting together the PowerPoints that you'll be seeing later. Our Commissioner of Public Works, Jacob Twiel, Economic Development Director Maria Bruni, and Parks and Recreation, as I mentioned, Superintendent Chris Brinkerhoff, along with the Working Supervisor John Bianchi, and special thanks to the entire Wolslayer family. This came together very quickly, and especially Kelly did a lot of work, a lot of groundwork, so we thank you for all your efforts. So we do have a list of speakers today, and let me begin by introducing my friend and probably the most effective assembly person in Albany. I mentioned she was instrumental in securing the $250,000 grant, but also other millions of dollars coming into the city in the form of grants. We're lucky to have her representing our city, Assemblywoman Amy Guthrie.
So, as you all know, my husband Jacob went to Middletown High School. I'm sure you knew Jake, Bill, and Roy very well. And I actually met him in Middletown, New York. So, you know, sometimes we hear the expression, it takes a village, but in this particular case, it took an entire city, a school, love, family, and friends to do something like we're doing today. So it does take an entire community to give such accolades to someone that did so much for so many, and it's so well deserved, and congratulations so much.
Our next speaker was elected to the New York State Senate in 2018 and has an impressive start. She takes the place of former Senator John Bonisic, who secured the original funding and was invited to be here but was unable to be. I think he's out of town. And her office is completing the work on the grant project, but is also working on other recreational grants for the city of Middletown. Senator Jen Metzer.
Hello, everyone. First, I want to note that I have my colors on because even though I grew up in Middletown, I have a lot of pride representing Middletown, and I'm so happy that my district office is in Middletown. And I am thrilled to be here today at the naming and dedication of this new sports field after Coach Wolslayer. I did not get to benefit from all of his teachings growing up, but I know many people in this room have. I want to thank you for your lifelong dedication and commitment to public education and athletics here in Middletown. It's no small feat to coach for 25 years alongside teaching for over 40, I understand. And I know that the students and parents here today can attest to the ways you've positively impacted their lives both inside the classroom and outside the classroom. And I applaud the mayor and Common Council President Miguel Rodriguez and the Common Council for naming and dedicating this field in your honor. It's very well deserved. I also want to acknowledge and thank my predecessor, Senator Bonisic, for prioritizing funding for this athletic field when he served as state senator, along with my colleague, Assemblywoman Gunther. And I'm personally making sure that the Senate share of that funding gets through and gets here to Middletown where it should go. I'm also thrilled to advocate for additional funding through the Regional Economic Development Council to connect the park with the Heritage Trail, as well as construct the combined concession, restroom, storage facility, which you can see. Everyone should come look at what it will be created, because it really is truly astounding. And it's going to do so much connecting the field, connecting the trail, connecting all of it with the downtown. This interconnectivity is going to bring many more people both to the facility itself and also support downtown revitalization and improve quality of life for years to come. So I'd like to close by thanking Mayor DeStefano and President Rodriguez and all involved. There was a long list. It clearly was a huge partnership in this vision and making this public asset come to fruition. And I'd like to present a certificate of appreciation to Coach Wolslayer for all he has done for the students over many, many years of public service. Thank you so much.
Next is a gentleman you all know, Town of Walkill Supervisor Ed Diana. As you know, the Middletown School District is about 50% city, 50% town. And Ed was actually a coach in Middletown, also and played. I think it was third string, I heard. Was it? Yeah, second. All right. Did he was that? But we know Eddie. We like Eddie. And if you don't believe me, just listen, and Eddie will tell you why we all like him. So come on up, Ed, and talk to us about your experience with Coach Wolslayer.
Thank you, Mayor. And good afternoon to everyone in this great room today. And this is a great room. I am the supervisor in the town of Walkill, and this is one of the last official events that I'll be speaking at, and it means an awful lot to me for a lot of reasons. But you know, I'm going to give you a little history real fast about Dick, because Joe said don't talk too long today. East Stroudsburg State University, 1961. Colorado University master's degree. Football and swimming. Dick was a great swimmer. People don't realize that, but he was. All Pennsylvania State football center. All-American linebacker. All-state swimmer. Outstanding swimmer, captain of the team. Hall of Fame. In 2005, they named him to the Hall of Fame at East Stroudsburg University as well. Middletown football coach, head coach, 25 years. He coached 12, then he thought he wanted to take a little retirement, and then 4 years later he comes back again for another 12 or 13 years. Not many people do that. Teacher, over 40 years. Dick, 142 wins. The most of any football coach in the history. I think any coach probably in Middletown history. Out of those 25 years, he only had 3 losing seasons. He had 22 wins. Most wins of a head coach. Coach of the Year in 76 and in 93. 1967 Do-So title. His first year, rookie coach. Wins the title that year. Teaching started in 62. He has a great wife, Donna. Great kids, Kelly and Ricky. They're not kids anymore. They're young men and women. I got to know them very well. I was a teacher myself. One of the best things I've ever done in my life. Coached as well. And Dick was a teacher and a coach. Dick was my colleague. Dick was my mentor. Dick was my neighbor. I lived next door to Dick for 12 or 13 years. But above all, Dick Wolslayer is my friend. And no matter what you do in life, friendship means more than anything. Because that stays with you for the rest of your life. Dick, we had great times together, and I could probably tell an awful lot of stories. But Joe said not too long today. This field being named after you, long overdue, long overdue. It's a great testament. I can't thank the school district enough, the city of Middletown, Mayor Joe, Miguel, the board, everybody who was involved. Certainly Jen Metzger and Aileen Gunther and former Mr. Bonasek, former senator. I spoke to John yesterday because Joe wanted me to call him. John's out of town. He's away for a while, and he just wanted me to bring my congratulations to you, Dick, as well. He knows you personally. And it's a true testament, Dick, of your dedication, your understanding, and a true love of the game of football. But more importantly, Dick, your teaching of ethics, dedication, what it means to be a member of a team, the spirit of winning, the attitude that you never give up. To you, my very good friend, I thank you for being my friend and my mentor. Congratulations, Richard. Thank you.
Kelly said, she's laughing because she said if Eddie keeps it under 5 minutes, she was buying shots for everyone. And it was like a little over 4 minutes. That's why I was looking at my watch. Our next speaker will be speaking on behalf of the City of Middletown Common Council. Our Common Council members are here today. Dr. Paul Johnson from the 3rd Ward, Jerry Kleiner from the 2nd Ward, Andrew Green from the 2nd Ward, County Legislator Joel Sierra, Tom Berg from the 1st Ward. I said Jerry, I think, yeah. And so Miguel will be saying a few words on behalf of the Common Council. As you know, I said it was his dream, and Wolslayer's naming, so you took it from him. That's good. Miguel is also the self-proclaimed best center to come out of Middletown High School. All you folks have to argue that point, not me. So, Miguel, please come on.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon. We wanted to do this outside, but we didn't know about the weather. So look to the right, look up here, and welcome to Wolslayer Athletic Field. I'm honored and excited to be up here and being part of naming the field for Coach Wolslayer. It started in about 2006, coming out of my neighborhood and knowing that I want to do something with this industrial piece of property and convert it to a park. I want to thank the elected officials, Aileen Gunther, Jen Metzger, John Bonasek. With the grant money, we're able to do this. I have a lot of stories about Coach Wolslayer. The mayor had asked me to keep it down to 2 minutes, but I can't share them all. But I remember we were part of the '95 Section 9 champs, one of the best teams that the coach had. We always remember, today is another great day to excel. I remember the 3 days, the 3 practice a day in August, and the hills that Mr. Lakeman, Keys, and Wolslayer used to run after practice. I used to think they were trying to kill us. After practice, we would meet and we would say, can this be worse than boot camp? So we would joke around and say, you know what? He's putting us through this, not just for the game, but to be better in life. Playing for a coach was hard. Playing with diversity, we had pious kids, we had kids from all over the country. We prepared. And we had exchange students. We had everybody. Couldn't even speak English, but we were there. At the end of the day, we put our helmets on, we were middies, and we played as a team. We graduated, we went to college, some went to D1, D2, D3. 25% of our team went to the military. So around this time, when it was Thanksgiving, everybody's back home. So how was boot camp? It's a piece of cake. You can survive Wolslayer, you can survive the military. For those players in the military, they went on and became officers in the military, doctors, lawyers, and of course, elected officials. Wolslayer's Field will be home to the Middletown Youth Football Program, where we get a chance to explain to our kids what our coach meant to us. We still teach our mighty mice, 5, 6, and 7-year-olds, the wishbone and all the Middletown players. I want to thank everyone for coming out today. I want to thank Coach Wolslayer and congratulate him. It was Rodriguez Field, but it sounds better Wolslayer. And thank you for everyone, and thank you for everything you have done for our community and for all of us here today. Thank you.
You're the center, right? He said the best, I don't know. You gotta trust that. Now on to some of your colleagues. And we had a couple of additions to the program, and we'd like to call up Mike Edwards, who's going to say some words for John Bruner, who should be good words, I hope, it's Martin Bruner.
I called you Mike, I should have called you Mr.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to mention that I was at Middletown High School several years before Dick Wolslayer. That give you an idea how old I am. Well, they asked me to meet John Bruner tonight, who was also a coach at Middletown High School. And I called John last week and I asked him, I said, could you give me some positive attributes about Dick? I have to speak 2 or 3 minutes at a party honoring him. And John went on for a half an hour. I can't use a half an hour tonight, so let me hit you with some of the highlights. The first thing he said was that Dick was dependable. He never had to tell him something twice. I'm not sure his wife would agree with that. He went on to say that he was persistent, and that when he went out to scout, he came back with reams of paper with X's and O's. In case you don't know it, that's the language of football, X's and O's. And this guy was a master at it. And guess what? He's still Xing and O today. Then John went on to say, Dick was loyal, and he felt very strongly about that. He was loyal to John, he was loyal to the players, and he was loyal to the school. And going along with that loyalty, John also emphasized that Dick loved him and showered love upon his players. That's really something. And finally, since I only have 2 minutes, let me close with a hypothetical story. I can picture 2 little leaguers at this beautiful new field with their helmets and shoulder pads on, and one saying to the other, "Who is Dick Wolslayer?" And I hope somebody within earshot will say, "Dick Wolslayer was one hell of a football coach." Go Migs!
Mr. Art Gage grabbed me by the shoulder and said he would twist my shoulder off if I didn't let him speak. And I think he can still do it.
Let's go back to 1959. That's when I first met Dick, way back then. I didn't really know him, but God prevailed. I came back here, and here he was. He had the same feeling for football and teaching that I had, and it made the next 30 years or whatever it was great for me. Now, in 1959, there was a Ithaca-Strasbourg game. It was at Ithaca. It was a tragic event. And I don't imagine too many people know about this. I know my family does because I sit around and that always comes up. The maintenance people put their lie, or whatever you want to call it, to mark out all the things on the field. Well, it rained, halftime it was cold, and it wiped out the burns, etc., on the bodies of these players. It was agony. But the only thing is, we survived, and we got together. God, how we did it, I don't know, but it was the best years of my life coaching. Thank you, Dick.
You couldn't hear what Dick was saying. He was telling Art he cheated in that game. An old first water, Nick Nitchy Scally. Come on up.
Thank you, Jojo. That's a pretty good reunion we're going to have today. Yeah. You see the faces out there? From all the way back right up to recent history in Middletown. You know, when these things, you might have heard about Dick's being honored, you know, my mind went all the way back, not as far as 59, but he shows up at Veraldi Junior High School as an 8th grade science teacher. And I was an 8th grade kid playing ball. Eddie was in 9th grade playing for Dick Zimmer, right? And that's when I first met Dick. A lot of people don't realize he was a science teacher, a pretty good one. It was good, you know, he did a unit on automotive sciences. So during the school time, we went out and tuned his English Florida. And we were all stupid. We figured that was part of the curriculum. You know how much money he made tuning up his car, I have no idea. But you know, I was thinking back in 1978 at a family funeral, Dick came up to me. I was screwing around working at the district truck factory out on Crotty Road. You know, just hanging out in the neighborhood, fooling around. Dick came up. I was out on the sidewalk taking a break, and he said, "Would you like to coach?" 30 seconds, maybe a minute. I said, "I'll think about it." And when I think what became of my life after that invitation to coach with him, immediately went down, saw Ed Rodick, got my, signed up for substitute teaching, 30-year teaching career, 27-year coaching career, met my wife, the kids, everything, and plus he sold me a 200-year-old house in Slocum that I'm still working on. You know, remember what we had for lunch? You celebrated the sale, hamburgers, french fries, remember? Down in Warwick? You were easy. But you know, it's just amazing. Sometimes it takes 30, 40 years to realize how important those moments were. And Dick, just imagine the thousands and thousands of kids, of course not just the football players, but all of his students, you know. And if you will allow me, I'd like to quote Sir Isaac Newton. The reason why I saw so far, the reason why I did so much, I stood on the shoulders of giants, and this is the biggest guy in my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Also, the Middletown Board of Education President, Pastor John Williams.
So good afternoon, everybody. I have a great privilege of not just being the board president of Middletown, but also being a 1982 graduate of Middletown and a lifelong resident, third generation. And I have the privilege of being able to stand here right now and look out over this crowd and get to see so many of the faces of those that impacted our life in high school. True story, I didn't really like high school. But there were quite a few individuals who made high school likable. And certainly Coach Wolslayer was one of those. I didn't have the privilege of playing on the football team because I was a basketball player. But he didn't just impact the football field, he impacted all of the athletic department. He really impacted the lives of all of the students that were in the school. And so I'm glad that we can have this opportunity. I want to congratulate the City of Middletown Common Council, Mayor DeStefano, and all of those that were involved in taking this opportunity to name this athletic field after such a great man. It's a true statement that sometimes we wait to honor people till after they've left here. But it's good when you can honor somebody when they're here, when they can hear the things that you say and the things that you feel about them. And so I congratulate Coach Wolslayer today on behalf of the Board of Education of the City of Middletown. Mr. John Perino, one of my fellow board members and former president, is here with us as well, Mr. Middletown. And so we congratulate him. This is truly a great honor, certainly a great man, certainly well-deserved. And so we thank you, Coach, for all you've done for all of us. There's a lot. I see a lot of former students and football players and basketball players, athletes from Middletown that are sitting around here, and we all came just to say thank you, Coach, for impacting our life. We wouldn't be who we are and where we are if it hadn't been for people like you who came along and helped us through some of the rough times. Thank you. Congratulations.
behalf of Dave Coates, the athletic director, Kevin Gleason, the events coordinator at the Middletown School District.
Thank you, Mayor. Pleasure to be here. Dick Wolslayer epitomized the idea of being present in the community, watching sporting events of all levels, from all angles, from Pop Warner to Mighty Mites, to the big boys on the high school varsity team. Always positive, always supportive, the kind of passion that embeds itself into the athletic lives and into the real lives of impressionable children. He never gave up on kids and was a larger-than-life figure, helping meld youngsters into responsible and respectful young adults. Coach's standards never strayed. Coach Wolslayer was and is the ideal role model, the kind of man that kids not only looked up to, but wanted to be like. They wanted to emulate. This is why, when you look across the room today, you will see folks who chose two of the most important and noblest professions of them all, teaching and coaching, because of the influence of Dick Wolslayer. Many of his former athletes continued their careers beyond high school, and those who did so took the lessons learned from Coach Wolslayer and applied them to the respective fields, because it was never just about winning football games. It was about also winning the job interview or just winning the day. It has been said that the measure of a man is the impact he or she makes in the lives of those surrounding them. Coach Wolslayer had a deep impact on the greater Middletown community. He had a knack for instilling confidence in you, in making you feel like you could do anything, that you could accomplish anything. He loved working with students of all ages and stages in their lives. And through it all, Coach Wolslayer did it the right way. He applied the same intensity and passion to teaching freshmen how to properly serve a volleyball in phys ed class or in another classroom as he did teaching X's and O's on the football field. All but one of 5 coaches who followed Coach Wolslayer played for him or coached under him. One of them, to my right, current varsity head coach Tim Strenfeld, attended East Stroudsburg University, where Coach Wolslayer happens to be in their Athletic Hall of Fame. You can bet that Stren, himself former Stroudsburg football star, would have loved having Coach Wolslayer on his team. Coach went on to make the All-PSAC football team as a center and was chosen to the prestigious Associated Press All-American team as a linebacker. Coach was chosen as the outstanding player in the 1960 squad, and yet he wasn't just a gritty one-dimensional athlete. As was mentioned earlier, he was a freestyle sprinter and captain of the swim team as well. Not all coaches stand the test of time. Some get burned out, and understandably so. It's a brutally difficult grind that most of us can only begin to understand. Others manage to hang around for years and years, but their message becomes outdated and stale. Coach, though, was different. He had multi-generational impact, appealing to kids from the 1960s, some of whom would go on to play for our country in the Vietnam War, with the same insight and genuineness that he would offer to kids from the new millennium 40 years later. Why? Because his messages were as timeless as a tackling dummy. Do your best, do the right thing, and whatever you choose to do. Be passionate, be positive. Nobody alive embodies the spirit of Middletown football more genuinely and thoroughly than Coach Dick Wolslayer. He is indeed a local legend. We're lucky and grateful to have Coach Wolslayer heading up our teams for parts of 5 decades. But all these years later, as we attempt to slow down the speed of time, we can gleefully stop to ponder the beauty and enduring impact of a man who will be in our huddles forever. Thank you, Coach.
Next up is our varsity football coach, Tim Strenfeld.
Hello, everyone. So as I'm sitting here and looking around, I realize that there is a lot more people that deserve this to be up here speaking for Coach Wolslayer, but I'm very lucky and honored that I am up here. I moved up here a little later than most people. 2007 was my first year up here, and it was funny, the first time I met Coach Wolslayer, I was like, man, there's something about him that him and I just go very well together. Then I found out that he's an East Stroudsburg University grad, just like myself. And what was cool, we have a saying at East Stroudsburg that the blood runs thick. And it's funny because the more I learned about him, I was like, there's just something about this guy. And then when I realized that his best friend was my wide receivers coach, Coach Lupin, sitting right over there, I said, oh, now that makes a lot more sense, because these two guys are like brothers from another mother. But it was just an honor for me to be coaching with him, knowing that they were so close, and being able to learn so much from Coach Wolslayer. It's funny because he would still come around and coach these kids. And he said, oh, I started in the 70s. And I was like, wow, well, these kids are definitely different now. But when Coach Wolslayer starts coaching them, it's right back to normal. And he's fantastic with wide receivers, quarterbacks, defense. He can do it all. And now he's up in the booth with Mr. Estrada and Coach Tucker back there. And they do a phenomenal job. And I love going back and listening to Coach Wolslayer's little tidbits that he puts in there for me, I think, watching him. Especially when we run the ball down the field, and then he's like, all right, we gotta run in, and then we throw a pass, he's like, oh my God. But I have learned so much from him. 3 years ago, I became the head varsity football coach, and doing some research, I said, how is there nothing named after this guy? I was like, he knows everybody, he has just done so much for everybody. So I was talking to a couple people, and I said, well, I want to honor him by naming our MVP every year after Coach Wolslayer. And I talked to Coach Wolslayer about it, and he was like, wow. He said, I would absolutely be honored for that to happen. And so I started researching what he did, and it sort of blew me away. But the one thing that really caught me was everyone I talked to who knew Coach, I said, so can you tell me something about him, or that you remember? And the one thing that always came back to, and a couple of people have said it, is that they are the people who they are today because of him. And they do the things that they do because of him. And I was like that blew me away. And 3 years ago also, before I even started coaching, I said to my wife, I said, Shauna, so like if I put in for this job, where do I end? Like, I love beginning with the end in mind. And I said, what if I do terrible? And she's like, well, then you were terrible. Well, I don't know what to tell you. And I said, but what's like the best thing that could happen? And I'm gonna end on this. She's like, well, you could end up just like Coach Wolslayer and become a legend in Middletown. And I was like, okay, thank you very much.
Next up will be Chad Lincoln.
Don't tell me the Ohio State score, all right? I'm waiting. I'm DVRing the game. Don't tell me. 1986, I was a 25-year-old kid that didn't know anything. And really wasn't ready to be an adult, to be perfectly honest with you. I got married, I had a wife, I started having kids, and Coach Wolslayer hired me as a football coach. I was a hockey and lacrosse guy. I played a little football in high school, but there's no hockey and lacrosse down here. So I got put on the staff right away, and I'll tell you, and it's true what Tim said and everything else. In everything I've done, not just football, but being a father, a husband, and everything, teaching as well as coaching, there's an aspect of Coach Wolslayer and everything I've done. And I don't know if I would have gotten to that point, to be perfectly honest, without him helping me along the way, maybe sometimes giving me a second chance now and then when he had to. He bleeds blue and white. You know, I mean, that's it. And in today's society, from a coaching standpoint, a teaching standpoint, it's very difficult. The transition is continuous. Things seem to turn over a lot. You know, we're always trying to find coaches and people to do it. And Coach Wolslayer set an example for myself and for many others of, you know, the importance of what you're doing. I became a teacher so that I could be a coach. And I'm thankful that I moved to Middletown and was able to coach under Coach Wolslayer for 14 years on his staff. I mean, he literally, he was in charge of the program on every level, and he thought of kids, you know, on every level as well. I mean, there's a kid sitting here right now, he wouldn't be here without Coach Wolslayer. E.J. Hogue is our punter, lost his spleen in a practice. I'm coaching the special teams. We blocked the punt on site. Hey, good job, blocked the punt. The poor guy's turned to white. Coach Wolslayer, you know, goes over there, takes care of him, gets him to the hospital because he was in charge of everything. He took care of everything. There wasn't an aspect of the game, whether it was preparation before, after, or during the week that Coach didn't look after. And I think I learned a lot from him in that regard. My children grew up around Coach Wolslayer. You know, we would have the weight room on Saturdays. I would take them, get them a donut, bring them into the school, do the weight room, let them run around the gym, throw a ball out there, and they had a blast. You know, so, and then they grew up around the Middletown program. My son was a water boy, my daughters were cheerleaders. And again, I think the influence on them was really, really instrumental in what they then became. You know, this man, there's been no greater influence, I don't think, in Middletown. In the 30 years I've been here, I've heard a lot of stories about people in the past and met people before I even got here. And in my book, this guy's number one. And I think this is a great honor both for the community and for Coach Wolslayer. The only thing I would say is I think I could put a couple lacrosse goals, I think, on that one field over there. Congratulations.
Next up is Tony Napa.
Hi, everyone. About 2 weeks ago, I'm riding home, and I get a phone call in my car. And I look on the screen, and it says Kelly Wolslayer. I said, all right, well, first, right out of the chute, brings a smile to your face. So you go for a little bit, and traffic let up, so I answered the phone. I said, hi, Kelly. And then you hear Kelly Wolslayer giggles. I said, okay, this is a good start. This is really cool. So she says, can you, the day after, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, be available to speak for my dad? I said, absolutely, of course, we can certainly do that. This is quite an honor. So I come up here, and you know, after we see all these folks and we hear all these stories, I've only been a Middie since 1978. So when I look out and I see all these faces, I consider pretty much myself a recent newcomer. When you talk about the history of Dick in Middletown. And in fact, Dick was one of the very first people I met on the very first day of teaching in Middletown. And he came up and introduced himself and said, do you coach? I said, yeah, in fact I do. As a matter of fact, I was hired to coach here. He says, great. I said, yeah, I was going to be an assistant soccer coach. And all you guys that played for Dick know this. You see the squint, and then the net disappears. And it's like, okay. And I think, great, I'm going to get knocked on my rear end the first day of teaching in Middletown. But he took a couple of deep breaths, and I then told him, I said, but the bad news is the position fell through. And he thought for about 10 seconds and said, good, you can coach JV basketball. And he said, most important thing is get involved. And that was the very first lesson bestowed upon me in Middletown by Coach Wolslayer. And I stand here, and you know, we're listening to all these wonderful stories about Dick as a football coach, but I have a little bit of a different angle here, and that is my relationship to Dick as well as the city of Middletown, most specifically the recreation department. But it builds on all the things that you've been hearing. Because in 1983, and if you take a quick look at your programs, And the photo of Dick that's in that program, I'm really happy because if you look carefully at that hat and the logo on that hat, that's a Middletown Sports Camp logo. And it doesn't get any better than that. Because in 1983, after visiting some friends in Ohio, and the Buckeyes are up, Chad, what happens is I came back, and that's good. That's good.
Very good.
I came back and I was driving around Middletown. I had spoken to some friends, and out there they all were coaching in the summer at various sports camps. So I come back to Middletown, I'm driving around, and there are all of these fields and all of these gyms, and none of them are being used in the summertime. In fact, there were only 2 camps back in 1983. There was the Circleville camp, and there was the YMCA camp, and that was it. So I put together a game plan and said, you know, we need to get a sports camp in Middletown. First person I went to with that idea was Dick. And I did it for 2 reasons. Number one, he knew everybody. He knew everybody. He had the experience of working with the recreation department. He knew all the players involved, the Recreation Commission. But most importantly, I knew that if this program was going to succeed, I needed him right by my side. Because I knew that he was a winner, and anything he ever touched was a success. So in 1983, with a few of the other folks here on the original staff, we launched with the Recreation Department and the Middletown City Board of Ed, the Middletown Sports Camp. So it's been going on since 1983. So you do the math. And it's one of those classic examples of win-win, where we got the city and we got the school district and everybody got on the same page and we had quality people. And the amazing thing is that for years and years, by the time, you know, now they're about, what, 200-300 kids a week, Chris? Yes, sir. There you go. I ran the camp for about 8 years. And then things started happening at home, and I said, okay, it's time to hand off. It was logical. Notice I said hand off, it wasn't a pass. And we handed it off to Coach Wolslayer. And Dick took it for another 10 or 12 years, I'm not sure, a bunch. And then what was really neat is that he handed it off to Jim Kelly. And Jim Kelly is a current teacher, basketball coach in Middletown. He was one of our original sports camp kids from 1983, and his dad was on the Recreation Commission when we started the sports camp. So you want to talk about a virtuous cycle and a virtuous circle that came full round. So Dick, thank you for all that you've done for us. Thank you for all that you've done for the Middletown community. I'll leave you with 3 things. Number one, I always like to quote my very famous, favorite philosopher, Yogi Berra, which is, thank you for making this necessary. And number 2, in Italian, on an occasion like this, we always raise our glasses and we say cent'anni, which means may you live to be and have good health for 100 years. And number 3, and I know it's hokey, but at the end of the holiday movie, It's a Wonderful Life, everyone raises their glasses and gives a toast to George Bailey. But in this case, we're going to toast to Dick Wolslayer, who, when you look out today, Coach, you are the richest man in town. Thank you.
We will now have about a 4-minute PowerPoint to show the career of Dick Wolslayer before we bring John Deacon up. So please start the video. saw Dave Green, there's like 100 versions of On the Victory, and we put it up on Facebook, and Dave Green was the one who identified it was the University of Wisconsin fight song that Middletown played sang it to, so at least back in my day. Our next person will be introducing Dick. We had Thanksgiving is always a busy weekend in the city of Middletown, and we family and friends coming back and visiting. And then Friday night, last night, we had our tree lighting downtown with thousands of people. As you know, John Degnan is our downtown business improvement director for many years now, and he's made it so busy downtown that he couldn't even go out afterwards and have a drink. He had to go home and have his bourbon at home because we're so busy. So he's mad about his success. But a few years back, I was able to meet with John Ruger down in Clearwater Beach, Florida. And his words at that time were two of the craziest coaches he ever worked with. And he worked in the NFL also, keep in mind, were Dick Wolslayer and John Degnan. So we thought that it was appropriate for John Degnan to not only say a few words, but to introduce Dick Wolslayer. So John, please.
Folks, I'd like to thank you for coming here tonight as a tribute to my real good friend, Dick Wolslayer. We've been friends for more years than I care to think about. We've known one another for, I guess it's not, what year? 1980? Okay. But anyway, I would like to say that I'm very, very impressed with the crowd that has turned out for Dick, and he certainly deserves it. One of the winningest coaches in the history of Middletown High School, which football goes back to 1896, I believe it is. Yeah, 1896. So it's been around for a long time. There have been a lot of coaches, a lot of good coaches and everything like that, but this certainly is a tribute to one of the most successful coaches that Middletown High School has ever had. So again, I would like to congratulate Dick. He received an honor that he truly deserves, and I want to thank again all of you for being here. And again, I do want to thank Dick, and I feel indebted to him for all that he has done for the youth of Middletown, everything he has done for football, and also for the building the character of these young athletes. So again, Dick, I really want to thank you. Congratulations for this. Thank you.
Honorable Mayor, friends, I would like to use a phrase used by a very great athlete when he was introduced to the crowd of the great diamond at the Yankee Stadium. When he stood up, knowing that he was in a bad way medically, and made the statement that I believe that I am the luckiest man on the face of the earth. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I too believe that I'm the luckiest man on the face of the earth, and I am staying here in Middletown. The thoughts of what I incurred when I came here in 1962. I came here looking for a job in 8th grade general science to save traveling time and money and all expenses. Dr. Thor Crow, who was the superintendent here, sent me a letter and said, interview with the superintendent of school of Boulder, Colorado. Well, whatever I said, I fooled more than one person, and I got the job and came to Middletown when they were having their early school year picnic for new teachers and administrators and so on and so forth. I walked on and no one knew me, and maybe that was a good thing. And for 33 years, I taught in Middletown, I coached in Middletown, probably every sport that Middletown had to offer, I in some way coached some level or whatever, except soccer, and we had a great soccer coach, so I could boost him, and swimming. Of all the times that I coached football, I know I was very fortunate, again, a lucky man, to be at the right spot at the right time. When John Brunner left, I was made the head football coach, and that was in 1967. I owe this all of my love for football and coaching and the whole thing to my sister Barbara, who said, I said, in school, how do you be popular? She said, play football. And I used to go to school, and one of my idols was Frank Lupin, who sits over there. He was a fellow player. He used to play so hard he got hurt every year, it seemed. But I noticed he always got the girls in school, so I said, hey, maybe Barbara has something going here. Coming to Middletown was one of the greatest moves I ever made. Again, I was probably lucky that I picked, after getting my master's degree at Colorado, that to come here, because I met the most fabulous people and the greatest kids to coach. Every time I turned around, I come in general science, I was a little shaky on general science. Frank Shearholz grabbed the hold, gave me all these texts and all this stuff and help. Mike Edwards would sit in the lunchroom, and Mac Wagner would teach me how discipline should be administered at that day and time. And Mike Edwards, and so I was eased into a great, great situation. And John Way had said, if you enter in and help with all the community affairs and things, you'll never be sorry. And boy, was he right. With everything from the Pop Warner program to the coaching to everything. I just, I do say this though. With all the help that was given and all the affairs that occurred, some of the things that I loved the most was number one, recruiting the kids to play football, and number two, getting them to stop smoking and to watch them develop, and many of them playing football, many of them going away to school. Guys like Steve Barone ended up down in University of Miami, playing down there, and almost coming out, maybe about 3 weeks away from being taken in by the Washington Redskins professional football. Paul Hughes going to Temple and on a scholarship and coming back as an administrator and working with the kids. These are the things that made my life a real pleasure in teaching, coaching, and then the final straw was being help Joe Rady go up with the senior class trip people and helping him and watching the kids grow up right in the right there, and having the kids be able to control themselves. Of course, I was usually placed strategically at the end of the hallway or stairway so that they could hear me snoring. So that way they knew that someone was at the end of the hall, we better stay in our room. But Joe Rady showed me how to help the kids grow up. And then probably some of the final pleasures of dealing with the kids is when we would go with Art Gage's outdoor education 2-day excursion down the Delaware River, where they had to pack their gear, pack their food, make sure they had their life jacket on, because we watched kids grow up as they went along, and it was a great thrill. So really, I do appreciate this. I really thank you for naming this field after with me in this situation, but the pleasure that I got out of teaching, coaching, and going along with these kids on so many different situations and watching them grow up, watching them come back and giving back. Guys, again, Rick and Gary Klingman, who are great athletes here, went away to school, came back, made great use of their talents, and it used to be a pleasure to watch them just give back to the city, and even the city. The city took care of me because they do. In the summer, I didn't have anything to make money with until Tony's sports camp. So the recreation department gave me a state body truck, and we had a group that went around and beautified our parks. And we would cut down the unsightly weeds, rake them up, put them in a truck, and everyone would be one big hayride. They'd all go back, and I think once in a while we'd have a loose door, and the door would open up and swing out, and the guys would be hanging on the doorway. But they forgave me for it, and the nice thing about it is would take some of their time in their coffee break, or on their lunch break, or when we brought the tools back, and they would work on their football skills so that they would look better when they played that next fall, and not to embarrass any other parents when they played. So they were great kids to have around. Again, watching them grow up, they worked real hard. They would also party hard too. They had their breaks, but it was great. And the city would take care of me in many ways, and they still do. But I believe that the nice thing about the teaching, that I was paid to teach, car or no car. I was paid to retire with a buyout for my retirement, and still getting paid. So, but that's neither here nor there. Last thing I will mention, that some of the people that I met and worked with, guys like Art Gage, Bill Byrne, Tony Delcato, who I was a JV tennis coach for 22 years, strictly because of him. He was just a great man, and they worked with us on the canoe trips. We would go down the canoe with the kids, and we would have Bill Howell, we'd have Chris Brinkerhoff, we'd have Jerry Paul, and of course the boss, Art Gage. We never lost a student because they never lost their flotation device. And to watch them come home, and they were so dead tired that by the time their bus got out of the parking lot, they would be asleep. And then they would come back to school that Monday and talk about all these great adventures of their overnight hike or overnight canoe trips. So again, I can't say enough for the people I worked with, the people I enjoyed, the ones who put up with me, like Chris. Where are you, Chris? It's a gross seat. It was the head of our department. Every time we had to put our grades in, someone had to come up behind me and work on the computers, because I'm computer illiterate. But she was very patient with me, along with Jim Brownlee and some of those others. So again, this is like the icing on the cake, and you all know how much I love cake. Again, I would like to say thank you for coming out of your holiday work and obligations. I really appreciate this. I'm excited about it. I can't wait to see the youngsters, the young people use it. And maybe I should and will go up and use it. But I can't say enough of thank you. I do say this, that I appreciate the fact that you are here. I've always felt that I made the right move staying in Middletown and being in Middletown. I hope that you all have an enjoyable trip home, and be careful, especially if that snow's coming around. Be careful what you drink and how much, if you have any can't thank you enough for coming. I will myself hopefully go use that track and field. In the meantime, God bless you. God bless Middletown. And God bless America. Thank you.
The Wolslayer family has asked everyone to stay if you like for the luncheon that will be starting soon.